And we are live again.
Woo!
Welcome back to Renters Radio. It has been a long time. I'm not sure how many months it's been, almost 3 at this point, um, since the COVID 19 crisis kind of kicked us off the air. But it feels good to be back in the studio, doesn't it?
It does. I like that every other podcast and show saw this as like their golden opportunity of just switching to Zoom, and our response was, "Oh, we're just not gonna do it."
You know what? Evan was like mad at me because I was like living in a bunker and like shooting BB guns in a basement for a month. And he's like, Lauren, stop Elizabeth Warrening. I'm like, I'm doing me.
Yeah, just working on health, mental health, while the
Yeah.
world roads around us.
I may have actually been losing my mind in the process, but I came back. There was
Um,
more important things to deal with, which is why we're here.
but do you want to explain 1 minute each? What were you doing during COVID?
What wasn't I doing during
Because we both
COVID?
have bunker stories.
Oh yeah, you were in a bunker and
Yeah.
I was in a
So
bunker.
what was your bunker? And then I'll explain my bunker.
My bunker was a home in Brookline that one of our friends from the station's family owns, where me, Jarva, and a few others, Mel, posted up for a while and helped clear out this house full of antiques, as well as we set up a studio down there, but the internet didn't work very well. And a whole bunch of stuff happened in the process. It was sort of this ongoing saga. I
Then why
learned
were you shooting rats? Can you explain that?
because they were there, and we had a lot of BB guns and pellet guns, and it's fun. And I don't have a job anymore, by the way, people. So, like, what else do you do when you get laid off? I was being paid to help with things that my friends had, like side work, and you know, like work, party, and then, and then, I don't know if a lot of people know this about me. I'm sure you might have noticed by now, but I have extreme ADHD. So the last thing anyone can expect me to do is work from home. Just not going to happen. I don't do work from home. I'm terrible at like my room is a place for not working. If I'm working on something, it's like a side project, like building a rope thing. I don't really like go on the internet from my house. I scroll on my phone while on the go.
Uh,
So
So you went to a bunker,
I
you
went to a
shot
bunker. I
rats, you
shot
helped
rats.
nice family get through it,
I made it like a new grandma. We made some
you
great music. We
lost
did
your
art.
job, earned a grandma. Okay.
Yep, that. Had some amazing experiences. I'm sure I'll go back there soon, but then, what happened was George Floyd happened and the Black Lives Matter movement reignited, and I'm never one to miss a protest. So, when that all started kind of hitting the fan, I've just been out on the streets the past month protesting and in a way also still living my best life with that because I really am enjoying learning and seeing these young people out there every day. But I haven't been back to the bunker since I exposed to so many people.
All right, now my bunker story
Your bunker story is so much more official.
is I was roped in with the MEMA, Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency disaster response to COVID, basically for free. Like, as I think I talked about on the show, I'm an independent contractor of the state just to really manage this one grant from the oddly enough Department of Homeland Security to make sure that just like senior citizens, people with disabilities are okay during emergencies. For some reason, then I became the guy that MEMA tapped to help run two different statewide programs. One of getting people who are homeless who get tested positive a place to isolate in a hotel program, and then another working group making sure like the food supplies are running. So I was basically on loan to them for free. I didn't see an additional dime doing any of this.
Wait, but that's your job.
My job is to manage the grant. I am just such a nice person that I volunteered to go to the underground bunker for MEMA and help them do their
Like you
systems.
didn't want to go to an
Oh no,
underground
I
bunker.
100% be I
Who doesn't want to go to an underground bunker during a pandemic? That's what we all
yeah.
want to do.
But now we're basically done.
Yes, now we're on the
Um,
streets every day, basically. Well, at least I am. You are too.
yeah, I was gonna. I mean, you. It's been almost one full month. 2 days from now, this Sunday will be Boston's biggest one. Like 1 month from that big Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't like. We're gonna have to probably not right now in the second talk about like the evolution of protests in Boston, because I know we both have. You've definitely been to more. I've been through a lot. We've both had a lot of experiences at them, talking about all that. But do you have any quick highlights of like one protest? Because
Um,
it does kind of set the stage for why we are here, which is to
yeah,
talk about the culminating results of the Boston City Council vote.
exactly. So protesting, in my experience, doesn't always work as intended, but it always works in a certain way. I have been at, I believe, at this point, 25 protests in Boston since this started. Ever since the first one, I drag everybody I know with. Herb, Danny have been amazing comrades, taking pictures of me, helping me get video, as well as Evan. I've seen you out there marshaling, protecting people. You've all done a pretty good job here. Um, and I mean, there's been certain protests that have struck me more than others. Some just seem like run of the mill. Like, it's good to be out there. It's good to have bodies out there. It's good to follow the action. But then there's certain ones that have really spoke to me where I've gotten emotional. Um, a lot of these were the ones that were focused on anti-incarceration. Not even the biggest numbers of people, but some highlights are going to South Bay and protesting outside of the SHU, the solitary units, and seeing the people who are in solitary.
Oh, that was
But,
the public defender.
yeah, the public defender march in Roxbury. That was a couple weeks ago. That one really affected me, and I feel like I wish I could do that every day. Because they were putting like hearts to the window, like they saw us, and I just know how important that is as someone who's so feel that everything having to do with that is spoken a lot. Also, any march that has been led by young, inexperienced organizers that has gone off amazingly, which I've seen a lot of lately. This Gen Z is killing it right now. And I just want to like shout out. I don't even know everybody's name. I don't know everybody's organization and what they're doing, um, or what they plan, but they are doing an amazing job. Like, we occupied an intersection the other day for a few hours. That was pretty sweet. Art cars. There were some pretty massive ones too that Tito, Monica, Violence in Boston, the official Black Lives Matter groups put on that drew some amazing crowds. I couldn't live stream as easy from them because there were such large crowds. The Black Trans Lives Matter march was amazing, beautiful. Someone said it was the most authentic pride in years.
Oh, I
And
mean, yeah.
I think that's
Probably.
true. Yeah. A lot of the protests that were put on by Mass Action Against Police Brutality have been really well done, and especially the ones where Terrence Coleman's mother comes out and tells her story of her son getting shot by police and reliving that in front of all of us, and we're trying to be their supporter, but it still takes amazing courage for somebody to go and speak about their trauma publicly like that. So I really appreciate every person who has come out and put their personal life forward. Yes, it speaks to me every day, and I wake up every day excited to go to another one because this is history.
And
But what have we actually accomplished yet?
no, I know, and that's why, like, you said a lot of things that I wanted to build
Yeah.
on, and I know, like you and I probably can and will at some point just talk for hours about the protest.
Yeah, we'll have another debriefing show.
Still trying to keep myself in a positive mindset before we enter into the Boston City Council.
Oh god.
Is you talked about how a lot of these that are being youth led and how well they're being run, and something that I have noticed is when there is a youth led protest versus what I would just call like the older generations organized and activists. And this is not a slight to the older generation, older organizers and activists. Their marches have been fantastic, absolutely. The youth led are a lot more aware that just the action of we're just going to walk from one point to another in a secluded area, have our speeches and leave is not enough. And that the concept is to occupy space, and also the like norms of the crowd in going through like just to highlight FTP, like one of the things they
Right.
do. This is like, I don't want to go on the tangent about it, but they do a fantastic job making the event go the way they want it to go and getting the
Right.
whole crowd to buy into that before we begin. And
Right.
it's just like this whole just this culture the last 5 or 10 years of like we know how to like talk to one another in what I'll just call left spaces in general.
Yeah, and they're also aware of how the internet is watching, and they're using maybe different mediums than a lot of what I say. I mean, the old guard. Are we the old guard? We might be the old guard at this point. They're on different, like they're on Instagram, not Facebook, and vice versa, as well as they will outline certain rules based on the group, like what is okay and what's not okay, what the intent is, what I guess the praxis is, and a lot of it is for visual like, and or just media centered attention, and it does make a statement, it does make a difference. They do outline their demands for each march very concisely. I think that even if they just had a march where they just said fuck this shit, I would still march with them. But at the same time, they seem to understand
there
they need
hasn't
to
been
have
one of those. Like the events from like, all right, this we have to stop eventually and pivot to the city council.
Okay, yeah.
But the events of that first big Sunday, 1 month from 2 days from now, and the police violence and escalation was the cause of that event then turning into an end result of some petty broken windows got added in the process. In the larger scope of just the piles and piles of bodies and exploitation of centuries, bear me that the Men's Warehouse got raided. Like,
no.
if you think those two things are comparable, then you're kind of missing the point. But the larger thing is that was the outcome of a police escalation. Two reporters who were on the scene there both were live tweeting it, saying the police basically just like drove their cars through and towards the crowd as they were trying to leave and drastically escalated the tensions between them. That was reported on two different reporters.
Yeah, I was there.
I was trying to find a place to piss.
Oh yeah, I was trying to help you with that.
Yeah, you were tweeting me some secure locations.
Yeah, I did a great job. We did a great job peeing that day. Herb was with me, and you helped us get out of the tear gas, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
that was a crazy day.
But okay.
All right, City Council though has
Council
pissed us off a lot. What was it, 2 days ago?
2 days ago, this past Wednesday.
I was at a protest all day. I was at like 3 protests that day, and I was seeing you live tweet results, and I was just like, my heart just kept sinking and sinking, and I'm like, why is no one talking about this right now on stage? Let's talk about it.
Okay, and it's funny my reaction to it, because I was not expecting them to say no. Like, I'm enough of a pessimist that I was just like, they're not going to say, they're not going to reject the budget. They're just not. They don't have those type of that type of stones, we'll call it.
I had higher expectations for a few individuals,
and that's what kind of hurt. And we're going to talk about each one, and also the rationale that was given, and then kind of just watching it, like experiencing a month of the most authentic uprising since the MLK assassination. To experience that and to go through it, like what you and I have been doing, to marching in the streets, to occupying space, to seeing the demands, very concrete, very measurable. 10% reduction of a police budget, which is around like $480 million a year when you include the overtime. 10% of that, which is nothing. I wanted them to, and some groups were calling for 50%, and I think that's really where it should have started. Just calling those demands, thousands of phone calls, tens of thousands of people marching, and to have it not result in what isn't even that big of a thing of Marty try again on the budget. Like, it hurt to experience and to watch that, and I think it still does.
Yeah.
So, all right, the best way to go into this is probably a little bit more optimistic, and to start with Ricardo Arroyo's clip, Herb. But just to set it up, basically, this was for the operating budget. Has to get passed every year. It is the biggest power that the city council has. It is the biggest power the city council has. The city council can have hearings upon hearings. They use it as a microphone. They have some powers over appointments to confirm them that I still don't know the full extent of. But the big one is they're the ones who have to say yes or no to the budget. And I don't remember the last time the Boston City Council rejected a budget.
No, they don't. But, I mean, that budget did have a couple little sprinkles thrown in it. What was it, like 0.25% or something reallocated? And but it wasn't nearly enough. And I don't think 10% is enough either.
No. This, I think, ultimately, throughout this pressure, maybe a week or two before, Marty pulled back the budget he was going to submit. Took, I think it was, somebody should look it up, maybe $12 million or $5 million from the overtime budget, and we're going to get to that in a second of why it's a very important distinction, overtime budget versus the Boston Police in and of itself budget, and then just reallocated that. It was maybe somewhere between 5 or 12. I'll look it up during the clip. And what would have happened if they said no was there would have been, it's called, like, I think a 1/12 budget, which would just be really just like a stopgap. Everything is currently going to be funded at the existing levels of the previous budget, and then it goes back to Marty. Marty can submit another one, and they can vote up or down, yes or no, to approve that one. So like that's like what the consequences would have been, and what a 12 budget would have looked like. I'm gonna get to a little bit later, but it's very obscure purposefully. So no one knows. I don't know. None of these Boston City Councilors know for sure. At least if they did, they didn't say it publicly. What that would have looked like, what the consequences would have been of that stopgap, except for we'd just be working off of last year's budget while we negotiated for a new one. The reason I want to start with Arroyo is, and I think I've told you this before, Lauren, but he makes himself very vulnerable during this, so I feel like
Yeah.
I'll try to match him interpersonally, which is I've met him maybe once or twice, and I never got a read on him. And generally, if I don't get a read on someone, I'm just like, all right, like I'm gonna be very
Right.
very suspect. Just like we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
this is really my first time sitting and listening to him. He does an incredible job explaining his vote.
Harm that may come with the rejection of this budget. The word devastation was used, but not nearly enough has been said about those harmed and devastated by generations of underfunding, for whom this budget does not go nearly far enough in meeting this moment or their needs. We took a moment of silence. For me, it was quite emotional. 8 minutes and 46 seconds. It felt incredibly long. It was very painful. Now imagine waiting decades for funding in your communities and being told to wait with an impending recession in which every conversation that we have had about budgets is that we won't have more money to allocate in next year's budget or the budget after that. We'll be protecting allocations and being told to wait for next year for that money that we've talked about not being present. We'll be there for that. And so the realities in Boston are stark. The average net worth of a Black Bostonian right now is $80. The average net worth of a white Bostonian is $250,000. 99% of this city, our city's contracts, go to white men. All of those things are products of systemic racism. And so I ask myself, does this budget reflect the love that I have for my communities? Does it go far enough in providing a much-needed hand up to those who are most devastated by this pandemic and centuries of systemic racism? Does it create enough opportunities for those that seek them and have traditionally been excluded from them? Does it inject enough resources to reverse centuries of underfunding and disenfranchisement? Is this operations budget just? Is it equitable? The answer for me is no, and so is my vote.
It was, so during that,
Yeah.
our producer kept looking at me because normally I interrupt people after like 5 words. I
Right.
wanted to play. I mean, that was not his full thing, and this is probably an important right now disclaimer. None of the clips that I have are, one, the complete thing of what they said, and two, it's edited, meaning maybe they talk for a few sentences. I record that. I don't record a few sentences. I record a few more sentences.
Good job. You're getting into production, aren't you?
Well, it's more just because, I mean, this was a 4.5-hour hearing.
Right, I know. And you
Like,
were there watching it.
And there was very specific things that people said that I wanted to kind of react to. But that was Arroyo's comment. And it's important to know that he, while doing this, because everyone's Zooming from home now, he's wearing a shirt that says, they got money for war but can't feed the poor.
Right.
That's the t-shirt he's wearing. He led that segment going through all the different stats of about like how much more we are spending towards the police overtime budget. 15,000% more. Just the overtime budget versus fair housing in Boston. Over 4,000 times more than we're spending for immigrant advancement in Boston. So he just goes off for like 2 to 3 minutes of just, and he's focusing just on the overtime budget. And this is something that that is going to reoccur, is the powers that be have done a very good job. And the reason Marty Walsh took from the overtime budget is because that is, I think, $60 million.
Yeah, it's excessive.
But the Boston Police Department budget is like $410 million, and then another 60. For some reason, we have shifted the conversation to just talking about the overtime budget, when what we need to do is recenter the conversation around the entire budget, which is like 470, 480 million. Because then the stats get insane of how much more money we spend on policing versus healthcare.
Don't they get like 4 hours overtime for every like one that they actually are on the clock? or whatever.
So I mean, there's details, and I've been told that basically, if you work in 1 hour detail, you get paid for all 4 hours. The same with like court appearances.
Oh, God.
If I give you a ticket,
That's why they all show up now.
if I give you a ticket and you appeal it, and I show up to the court, and then you don't show up, I'm there for 20 minutes. Like, nope, Lauren never showed up. I bill you for 4 hours.
See, that wasn't always the case
Of what? Them not showing up?
of them. Yeah, because they used to never show up, but now they always show up
Well,
to
because
court.
probably now they've worked it in the union contract to get
Yeah,
paid more.
yeah, because it used to be like you could beat a ticket. They never showed up.
Yeah.
So,
And it should be noted that Arroyo be asked before, in the beginning of this hearing, can we take 8 minutes and 46 seconds, or is it 8 minutes and 36 seconds?
8 minutes and 46 seconds.
Silence. And so I wanted to start with him, but just because I like he laid it out perfectly, just the gross disproportionate that this budget does of policing, even just looking at the overtime budget. And now we're gonna get to some of the other council members. And before we go into what else, I'll call it the first negative. If Kenzie Bach,
Okay,
her
that's
will be
fine.
there.
You can throw her under the
But
bus.
no. So no, and this is a very important distinction because like I really hesitated about whether or not we should even do this.
No, let's do it.
No. But how I got it through my head is basically, obviously Lauren Cho, Lauren can do whatever she wants. I am not attacking in the three that I want to focus on, quote unquote, negatively, council members Kenzie Bach, Liz Breeden, and Lydia Edwards. I am not attacking them as people. I am not attacking anything they've done as an organizer or as a council member. What I am only going to do is what they said, my disagreements with what they said during this, and why I think a yes vote to pass the budget was a huge mistake. So that is all I'm addressing.
They had one job. They had one job, Evan.
I'll probably get more mad as I go. I also want to highlight that there's a lot of people that I also passed the budget that we're not talking about because I think it's going to be a waste of
Yeah, we expected that from them.
a waste of our intellectual time to analyze why Frank Baker's
Yeah,
statements were dumb.
We knew how that was
Or
going
like
to go.
Five-Car Flaherty. Or like, I
Yeah.
was thinking about Matt O'Malley, but like, there's just nothing there. Like, there's no substance to it. So I hope that people view it as I'm not giving them a pass. It's just like,
They're already
like,
beyond the pale.
yeah, like if you're watching this, like there's no critiques I can give you that I think have value.
Yeah, like what do you expect?
Yeah. So, all right,
But we feel betrayed by some people.
yeah, we do. So, all right, let's listen to Ms. Bach.
Let's start with
Councilmember Bach.
These items I want to save, referred to as crumbs by colleagues, who have stated in the press that a no vote today gives us the opportunity to push harder and win something bolder and better. A 1/12 for a couple of weeks, they say, is a small price to pay. The immediate layoffs could be quickly reversed. Don't worry, we say to those real people currently providing real services to our residents. If my colleagues had a viable plan, one that I could believe was not gambling with livelihoods and critical services, I would be with them on this. Say that we don't have a viable counter-proposal because no one from this body has proposed any source for more funds for our other priorities besides the police budget. And the same people...
Okay, so like again, like the reason that editing sounds rough is I'm not pulling the full clip. I think the clips I said still represent what they observed. So what Councilmember Bach just said in those two things. Notice I keep saying Councilmember because I'm trying to be as respectful as I can throughout this process. She said two different things. Her first thing was because no one here is presenting a counter budget fully fleshed out, I have to say no. And this will always just kind of like kill any sort of left challenge to something.
Well, you got something better? Okay, give us a chance.
No. but we do. So it's a little bit. But just to say that it was up to Councilmember Wu to have a side-by-side other budget when that's not actually how this works.
Right.
If it was, they would love to do this.
Right.
If that was part of the process of Boston City Council, they get to create their own budget and they get to vote yes on that budget or no on that. Oh, they would love that, right? And I'm sure Kenzie.
I don't think we'd ever pass a budget if that was the case.
No. Like it would be the city. This is honestly would be a better system. The city council budget versus the mayor's budget. They have to meet, like that's fantastic. But that's not actually how it works. And so to say I will not decline the mayor's budget because we don't know what will happen next. And this is going to be probably one. There's two themes I'm going to hit on over and over again. This is one of them. Is they are absolutely right of we don't know what's going to happen next. say this budget is not good enough.
Well, doesn't it revert to the last
No,
year's budget until they pass
okay,
something else?
Okay, we
Like,
literally
know.
We literally know that it goes to the 112
It's not
budget.
like all the money
It's
disappears.
a stopgap in between,
Yeah.
and then they can resubmit another budget.
Right.
And this entire thing and how it would have played out, and maybe I'll save this for Councilmember Edwards, is I'll save the next step to that. But it does not mean that you have to have a perfect plan, because that was not part of the process. The second thing she said, which I know a lot of us take exception to, is that they are my fellow council members are not. Herb, can you replay like the last 15 seconds?
Don't worry, we say to those real people currently providing real services to our residents. If my colleagues had a viable plan, one that I could believe was not gambling with livelihoods and critical services, I would be with them on this. Say that we don't have a viable counter-proposal because no one from this body has proposed any source for more funds for our other priorities besides the police budget. And the same people...
Okay, that's what this is all about. This what this whole the last month of protests have been. We need to take money from the police and reinvest it. And she glosses over that. She says none of the other council members are pointing to other areas of funding except for the police. And then goes on to the next point, where that is literally the entire challenge, the entire movement. Every argument that all the other council members made were either about this or about what the public wanted. So that is where the funding was. And so to go over it kind of missed, like, for me, the overall point, which is that is the point, is that we're spending way too much money on policing and not enough on transportation, on infrastructure, on housing.
Also schools.
And give it to anyone.
Yeah, literally anybody.
You could have told me, okay, how are we going to decide it? We're going to make a roulette wheel of all the public just funding that we want, spin it, and then they get it.
Oh, we got a call.
Oh.
Already. Let's take it. Why not? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, who's this?
Sean?
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, who's
Hello?
this?
Hi, this is Sean.
Hi, what's up?
Hey, Sean, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you guys?
Good. Do you have something to say about this? We're on Kenzie Box still.
Well, right now, at the climate with, everything that's going on in Boston and the BLM movement and the fighting of the police, I respect every council member that has been previously elected, sitting now, except for Frank Baker. I think he's just the mayor's henchman, as I call him. I think, for me, I think it was very hard for a lot of the council members, especially the new ones, to make those decisions. And I 100%, respect the decisions that they have made. But again, their constituents counted on them. Their constituents pleaded with them, called them, sent them emails, and for them to completely kind of ignore the same output and cry that even not even Black constituents, but people that are not of color were saying to them. I think that if it were to have gone the other way, and if to preview the other funds that were allocated from last year and go month by month, I think everything would be fine. I think the only problem is the police fund. Everything that's being funded is through the police. All the money that's being allocated, I've seen the numbers from Councilor Ricardo Arroyo and his numbers. That's ridiculous. Where is the money being funded to the communities that are less fortunate? I live in District 3, and I'm a candidate for District 3 City Council because I believe that, every single neighborhood has to be reflected in that budget. And in that budget, I watched this over and over again, did not reflect any of those neighborhoods that are less fortunate, that don't have those services, mental health services. Where's that money being allocated to? The money that should have been allocated was never allocated. Where's the money for education? Where's the money for, mental health facilities? Where's the money for the people in the opioid crisis that are facing, those addictions to be able to have access to clean needles? Like, I think that Boston, I think the not Boston, but I think the mayor has been working for the BPD, and he has not been working for the people. And
No,
I think that it's time.
oh no, please, Sean, finish up, and then I think Lauren has a comment. Go.
Yes, no, keep going. I'm liking what you're saying, and I have a few follow-up questions. Keep going though.
Yeah, I think that it's really time that the people elect people that are going to represent the people. Julia May, I was just I was at an event yesterday, well, on Zoom, via Zoom, that she was on, and hearing her story of how being an immigrant and coming to America at the age of 5 and being able to become a naturalized citizen, that is those are the people that are literally represented in our city of Boston.
We
Most
love
of the people
her,
that live here are most of the people that live here are immigrants, and
right?
to not have those allocations reflected to being reflected of each neighborhood is totally emphatically a disservice to the people that have voted, those same people that said they would fight for them, those same people who voted for Juneteenth to be a holiday.
You didn't like it.
I think it was a
Unanimous.
slap in
That
the
was
face.
unanimous. That didn't do it for you, Sean. Like I think it was like I don't believe that now makes it an automatic holiday. I think like now it enters
I think
into a
it
period
switches.
of review
It switches
or
with
something.
Yeah.
like you can switch it with a different holiday.
But
or
Sean,
something.
you are actually in my district. I'm not sure if you knew that.
What's your name, Sean? You're running against Frank Baker, or did you
Yes,
already
my
run
name's
against Frank Baker?
I am running against Frank Baker in the upcoming election in November of next year.
Okay, what is
My
your
full,
last
full
name?
name is Dabney Small.
How do I spell that?
I have it.
You have it?
DAB.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sean, I've been messaging.
Okay, all right. Evan knows
Yes,
you. I'm
me
like,
and
who
him
is
have been
this
talking,
person?
yes.
All right, I'm definitely gonna want to talk to you further about a lot of stuff. Thank you for calling in.
But Sean,
No problem. I'm always watching you guys, so
oh,
it's
good.
interesting to hear you
You
guys
said
speak.
something. I forget what I said. There's going to be 2 major themes, and I forget what the first one was already. But the second one you hit on, which was basically the council members, particularly the ones that are labeled and seen as progressive and do have some progressive policies, did not listen to the hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of marchers, vigils, protesters, emails, Zooms. They did not listen to that outcry.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
it,
no, go.
yes, and it's not like, oh, like this is just like it's not a big deal. It is, because you stood there at the state house, representing those people, representing those different neighborhoods, and then you go after their cry, after their hurt, after the pain that you have saw, the hurt that they're hurting, and to simply decide to approve a budget that does not reflect every single neighborhood, even if it reflects your neighborhood, it may not reflect Dorchester, because I certainly didn't see anything that reflected Dorchester.
Right.
I certainly didn't see anything that reflected some of the districts in part of Campbell's district in District 4, which includes some parts of Dorchester as well. I did not see that. But as a whole, I didn't see anything that was going to reflect all of Boston. It's the reason why people have run for office is to have inclusion. Ayanna Pressley ran for Congress to include everybody in the district, in the 7th congressional district. She did not run just to include Dorchester. She ran to include everyone. And I think that once people have saw that, or at least felt that their vote did not matter, because if you vote
Right.
someone in, you vote them in because of the principles, the values, and the moral that they have put out there. But once you have gone against those same things, that is when the people begin to question who you actually work for. Do you work for the people that elect you into office, or do you work for the BPD, or do you work for the mayor? I mean, you work for the mayor, but you work for those people that have brought you into that seat.
Yep.
You did not earn the seat. You earned that vote from the seat because those people trusted you. Those people put their vote, their single vote, just like Julia May. She won by one vote. That one vote she found in barbershops. She found crashing people's baby showers. That is
I was gonna say you memorized her speech, dude.
I'm-
That's impressive.
That's what I'm saying, and being able to do those things, and people have actually seen that she has been able to actually change the way people have seen her, and even when people don't see her the way that they need, she doesn't care. She is the person to say what she needs to say, and if you don't
Right.
like it, that is fine. Because
And
I'm gonna say the stuff that I say, and some people may not gonna like it. They're gonna disagree with me, but I'm the person that I take everybody's opinion.
Well,
I just had yesterday. I had someone DM me, and they were like, "Oh, you never know anything about Frank Baker, blah blah blah." But I'm like, he's fixed the pothole. That's all I really know about him.
right,
I've
right.
done research. I've done my research. My team has
and I
done
mean,
my
even that,
research.
there's plenty of potholes in Dorchester, so I'm not going to give him full
There will
credit.
always be potholes.
But I was gonna say, thank
Yeah.
you for calling in,
Yes.
and definitely, if you're gonna try to,
No problem.
if you're gonna look at Julia and look at Michelle, to me, you follow what they do, listen to how they communicate, and you'll definitely be on your way. But I definitely look forward to
No,
meeting you.
I think
hopefully sometime in
women
person.
are really good inspirers. Like especially Julia May and Michelle Wu. They have inspired me so much, and
Good.
I don't think I would be doing this. Also because my grandmother as well, she passed last year of March, and
hear that, man.
she always told me, thank you. She always told me that if you never try something, you never know if you're gonna succeed it. So the reason why I'm doing this is not because I think like this is going to be something bigger for me. It's going to get me out there. I'm doing this for my neighborhood. I'm doing this for the people that have felt like they haven't been heard, and I'm doing this for me most of all too. So those
Awesome.
people, the neighborhood that I'm bringing back is District 3. I'm not bringing myself there by myself. Everybody that's there sitting with me, supporting me, donating to me, being able to go and talk about me, those are the people that I'm bringing with me to that table, to that seat. I'm not bringing fake Airbnbs, illegally selling things. Like, I'm not even going to get into the stuff that I found out about Frank Baker, but I just want to say,
Yeah, as I say,
that
if you go down that
if
rabbit
you-
hole,
if you
that's gonna
support
that's
a
gonna pivot
counselor
us.
Sean, I
sits
want to have
around-
you on again in the future. Would you come in as a guest
Yes,
soon?
please.
Because I really want to
Yes,
hear more of
yes,
what's
actually,
happening.
I
And this
will
is
do it.
this is November 2020. You're talking about
2021.
2021. Okay, we have a little bit of time, but definitely reach out to
Yes.
us. I guess that Evan knows you.
Yeah,
Or
we'll
my
definitely,
friend,
we'll
I've
definitely
got
be
friends
in
that know
touch.
you. We would love to have you on to talk more because we would love somebody to beat Baker. So definitely call back
Yes.
soon. It was so good to hear from you.
No, thank you guys for letting me speak and speak my truth, and I always watch you guys' shows, so
Awesome, cool,
definitely
man.
will be tuning in more.
All right, well, take care.
Thanks.
No, you guys take care too.
Bye.
Nice to hear his voice because we've only been like Twitter friends and
Oh,
like a couple of
nice.
emails.
I'm just happy someone's running against Frank Baker. That
yeah,
sounds
and
pretty
I
legit.
think he's gonna try to go to our next socialist meetup in Dorchester.
Oh, you're gonna
so.
absorb him.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, he
He's
sounds like
DSA.
he's already on board.
Okay.
But I'm looking forward to meeting you again, hopefully in person. But now that I have a voice, next step is Zoom. Put a face to it. But okay, I think we're still mid council members box.
No, Arroyo Bach. Oh yeah, we are.
No,
We're mid Bach.
We're mid Bach.
We're mid Bach.
We took challenge to her saying why wasn't there another budget, another plan ready to go. We addressed how that's not actually how it works. Knows that, and it's the uncertain. That's the first theme, the uncertainty of what happens next, and that is going to be a big point to this. And then also, she kind of just glossed over. You only want to take money from the police. Yes, that is kind of the logic point of this. But all right, let's listen to what else.
Source for more funds for our other priorities besides the police budget. And the same people who have said we could get a better deal have been saying that we should be skeptical about the police cuts already proposed by the administration because they are allowed by law to overspend their police budget. So which is it? Are such cuts real or imaginary? And in this city, not just in this country, in this city, we spend too much of that over policing our Black and brown communities. So we urgently need to make this shift. In a moment such as this one, we feel the urgency of immediate change. We have a responsibility to city workers and advocates alike, however, to lay out a meaningful timeline for such shifts and to acknowledge that we need to plan, change contracts, use attrition strategically, and do the other things that you do in order to turn a big ship in order to achieve this kind of organizational restructuring.
Okay. Two different points that she made there. The first was she was talking about the overtime budget. And this is why, one, I think just rhetorically, pointing to a $60 million pot of money versus the total $470 million of money is just like we need to look at the big pot, not the side pot.
Right.
But the reason that Charlie Baker was willing to take back his budget, make it was $12 million, a $12 million reduction of overtime, and then spread that money out, is because the overtime budget is fluid. And what I mean by that is the police go over it almost every year, and they still get paid. So if if I want to help the police, and I'm Marty Walsh, I sit down with them and be like, oh, hey, listen, we gotta at least make it look like we're taking a cut. Somebody says, oh, take it from the overtime budget because we're gonna bill you anyway and you have to pay. Oh, great idea. Everyone fine with that because everyone still gets paid? Awesome. So when Kenzie says some of our fellow council members have said that overtime is like imaginary, and then she says, well, what is it? Is it real or imaginary? Like, the reason she's creating that wedge is to basically say, oh, but you're also saying if we take more money, then now that's real. And this is why I don't like us just focusing on the overtime budget.
Right.
But it's real if we take the money from their actual budget.
Right.
Or if they just got rid of all from 60 million to 50 to 1 million, and we got 59 million out of that. I will still say from the left standpoint, that's not enough, but that's still a 4 times increase of what we just got.
Right.
The second thing that she ended it with, and this the other council members who voted for this budget said it too, was like, we need time to plan. We need a timeline. We need to be strategic.
Well.
And the reason that is wrong is not because obviously in principle, like, taking your time and having a plan is wrong in and of itself. It has to do with, how do you think change occurs? Do you think it's our elected officials just being really smart with the budget?
No.
Like knowing like where to take the money from, where to tax what? Or is it if you have tens of thousands of people screaming every day, marching through the streets, demanding it? That amount of public pressure. That is why they missed the window.
Yeah, exactly. They could have done it. Like, this would have been a huge victory, and everybody would have had more faith in the city council.
Because
beautiful.
The side plan that she brings up, and I probably should have clipped it, but people can say I'm being disingenuous, whatever, is basically, let's do another year of hearings.
Oh, God.
And then try. But you are never going to maintain that level of public pressure that we've experienced in the last month unless you did it now, not a year from now.
We got another call.
All right, that's good. That just ended
Going
on.
to leave you lots of presents and maybe even a little something extra from me. Thank you for being so good, and I'll see you next year. Goodbye, and Merry Christmas!
What just happened?
I wish we got the full thing, though. It sounded like we answered it midstream.
Okay, so Santa Claus just got... I'm so confused.
Was that the Christmas poo from from South Park?
I'm not sure. I have no idea what that was. I'm dying right now.
Okay, that was
all
good.
right. All right, okay, I'm sick of Kenzie Bach. What's next?
Okay. All right, let's go to the big one.
Oh, Lydia? Or
Yeah.
Liz? Okay. Let's start with Lydia.
Yeah.
He's into Liz.
And then you can kind of steer who after this. So
I might cry.
we'll see. So Councilmember Lydia Edwards, I think probably after Michelle.
Who? I actually liked her better than Michelle Wu for a long time, and now I feel
is like viewed as one of the left progressive quote unquote champions of the Boston City Council. She's very outspoken against like the Eversource station there.
Suffolk Downs stuff.
She makes affordable housing one of her top issues. I think like maybe if I think I might disagree with her on some stuff on like the Suffolk Downs development in terms of how much she's like willing to work with it, with that company and within that project. Like so maybe we disagree on the edges there, but affordable housing, environmental issues, all that. It's not just her vote that I was very disappointed with. While I was doing this, I kept like a little sheet, and then I was guessing, almost writing ahead of time where I thought they were going to vote.
You were live tweeting it.
And I was live tweeting it, and like I would have the tweet
marching.
ready. And this one I got wrong. I really thought she was gonna follow.
She released a statement though, like the day before. That was.
Well, we're gonna
Okay.
get to some stuff.
Okay.
But let's listen to Councilmember Edwards. Let's take into account again. I'm gonna try to preface as much as I can. This is not her full statement. Go watch her full statement. This edited clips. consecutively. I don't like go back and forth and rearrange words. She starts by thanking the amount of people that reached out to her, saying that she will get back. I did not add this, but she did that. And now let's listen.
This moment, as many of my colleagues have said, this is something special about today and this time and this budget. This is not the time to shy away. This is the time to rise to the occasion. This is the time to hear the call, and the call is for structural change. I want to say I hear that call, and I've heard that call many times. I want to thank Councillor Bach for her proposal for how to answer that structural change. Her proposal is called leadership. But I want to be clear, I am really disappointed that this conversation seems to have pitted those social services and those people of color against the police. That is disappointing. The question before us is, does an up or down vote give us structural change? The answer is no. Neither one actually does it. Neither one makes Black or brown people more free, solves poverty, ends homelessness, reforms one police officer, or even defunds the police. Neither decision. Voting no on this year's budget is not going to bring about systemic change that we need at this time, and I don't think any of my colleagues have said that. It's about the statement of what that no means. Now, to those...
You cut it right there? Okay, because I don't want us to get lost too much. Right
Right,
now,
it's easy to get lost.
right now, how do you think she's going to vote?
Yes, she's talking a lot, but she's not saying anything.
I mean, but even that,
Or
like,
vote no,
look,
based on that.
yeah. So even
Like-
at this point, because she began it again, thinking for the public outcry,
Both sides of
and
the mouth.
I would actually like. I don't know. I wish I had a better relationship with her, or just a relationship with her.
I seen her at the rallies in East Boston.
No, I've seen her. Like, I mean, I think maybe I've had like one 60-second conversation. To know how much was she going off script and how much of this did she have written out, because like a lot of the council members had a prepared statement and you could see them like reading it while they're going, because obviously this was like something that you had to put a lot of time into, because she talks about structural change, and now because of Elizabeth Warren, those words have no meaning.
Nothing she said had any meaning in that statement.
Well, not yet. You're being too hard.
I
trying to be as fair as
I
possible.
feel a lot of things about this
Because, like,
statement. I was
I can't even explain to you what structural change means anymore, because everyone uses it now. It's lost meaning. But she says a yes vote or a no vote is not going to achieve structural change. Neither of them does. Like a no vote turning down this budget is not going to like end racism, solve poverty. And then she says, and I don't think any of the council members are saying that. So she admits that.
So then why are you bringing it up? I don't know.
No, but like it's all kind of setting a scene of one of my larger problems. Her statement was, let's just keep going. I wanted to address those two things. Oh no, and one of the things she said was that she's very disappointed how this conversation has pitted people of color against the police.
That was.
She today or yesterday released another statement that I don't know. Maybe we'll read it later if people keep calling.
Evan, we just need to play the rest of it.
And we go later. But basically, she released another thing that was very... Her and Frank Baker released almost the identical op-ed that said, Black Lives Matter, and we can love the police, and we can do everything together.
Yes.
Her statement of, I'm disappointed that this conversation has pitted people of color against the police, and her recent thing afterwards makes me just question a lot what her views are in terms of the role of the police in our society.
Or who got to her.
I'll just say that, or just the role of police in our society. I'm just very just from these two things. But okay, let's keep.
Let's just go. Let's just go. Let's hit it over.
This time, and I don't think any of my colleagues have said that. It's about the statement of what that no means. Now, to those who are disappointed or wanted me to vote absolutely no with no conditions, I would say you're more disappointed, or you should be more disappointed, because you place your beliefs for systemic reform and hopes for systemic reform in a flawed, oppressive process. You thought we could undo the master's house with the master's tools.
Oh my
All right,
God.
sure, you can cut that. Okay. This was actually probably for me. I'm going to use the word hurtful. As someone who, the last 2 to 3 years of my life, has been basically dedicated my life, my time, trying to achieve big structural change, and doing that in a myriad of different tactics, and what it sounds like she's addressing is the people that have been reaching out to her, the public outcry.
It's insulting. Sorry.
Is
That
when,
statement's
and then,
insulting.
and then she says that basically you were wrong for thinking that all of that was going to do anything.
This is like something an evil, like a bad guy at the end of a movie when you finally see him, like, ha ha, you thought you could win. Like it's so.
And I'm going to get to the quote she
It's
gave.
offensive. It's offensive.
The master tools with the master house, but basically, like what that segment right there sounded to me is like when I'm having drinks with like some of the far left people within DSA.
After Bernie loses.
Well, yeah, no, great, no, that's a perfect example. After Bernie loses, and like not rubbing it in again, comrades, friends, just being like, do you really thought like you were going to do anything with electoral politics? Really?
That's what I say to you all the time.
No, and honestly, and I'll take that from you.
But
I'll
I'm
take
not an elected official,
well,
so
I'll take that from people knocking on tenant. Like I don't take that from everyone. If you were building tenant unions, you can say that to me every day, or like organizing a workplace. I will take that critique from you every day. But if you're an elected official,
right. What are you doing there?
It sounds like I'm going to use the word confusing because she says a quote, "The master's tools with the master's house," which, and I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but I don't know how she's using that. I'm sure she knows this history too, so I'm not like.
She ran for office saying she would use these tools that she's referring to fix this. You know what I'm saying?
But that quote is often very, very misused. It doesn't mean I'm now just going to imagine you said it to me about electoral politics. It doesn't mean
I wouldn't say something like that.
You thought elections could overthrow capitalism, but elections are part of the capitalist system. Therefore, how could elections overthrow capitalism? That quote, "The master's tools in the master's house," my recollection of it, my knowledge of it, comes from Audre Lorde, a Black feminist lesbian poet, because she goes by that phrase, from like the 1980s, basically talking about how the rise of the feminist movement was completely alienating people of color, the LGBTQ community, poor people,
right.
and saying you cannot have a feminist ideology, academia structure that just mimics the white supremacist patriarch. You cannot use that structure because that is the tool of the master's house.
Okay, yes.
No, but like.
Okay, you're looking far too into it because you know what? What she said was next to nothing. She said a lot of words, but she didn't actually say anything. And everything that she said, no matter how you read into it, is deeply, deeply depressing.
That was the most depressing part.
The whole thing is just like, you know what? Well, you're the person people elected and asked you to do something. And for you to say, no, it doesn't work anyway, I'm just not going to do what the people demand, thousands of people marching the streets every day demand, that's a pop-out and, like, a weak move.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no other way around this. I might be too hard on her. Maybe you have to talk to her again in the future. I don't. So, you know, like, I'm going to say it. I saw her speaking about a lot of great things out on East Boston the other day about trauma, about, about like Black Lives Matter stuff, about trauma from the police, trauma for women. You can't ignore, the plight of immigrants, the plight of women, the plight of gay, trans people, all of this. And then, you know what? Now I go back and listen to that speech. It just sounds like a lot of words to me. And it really affected me when she spoke it then too. So I am hurt by it. And I'm not even a black person. I've got my own privilege, right? But I feel like this person just talks. This person just talks. That's the conclusion. I
know I kept her ending because her ending was also very personal to her, and
yeah, you can bring that out. You can bring that out as a weapon if you have to. Apparently,
and I'm not gonna comment on it. But Herb, let's keep it going.
With the master's tools, we cannot. Unfortunately, too many of the folks who want a no vote were okay with some layoffs of some of the unsung heroes that Councillor Flynn discussed: Hokies, part-time workers, seasonal workers, some of the youngest workers who aren't yet actually protected by the union. If you'll note, the saying, last in is first out, is oftentimes the most diverse workforce and the youngest. Those are whose jobs we're going to play Russian roulette with, in a pandemic, in a recession. And I'm not willing to treat those workers as cannon fodder in any cultural war. It's interesting that so many people truly believe, as I do, that people closest to the pain should be closest to the power. I believe that 100%. This is not a call to say not to do that. So I'm wondering, when those folks were saying cut the budget and they heard about layoffs, how many of them turned to those people who are going to be close to that pain and asked them what they thought about the layoffs? How many of them were part of this decision that they were going to be the ones that could be sacrificed? I'm curious, with the grassroots movement, how many workers were asked? What are your opinions?
All right, Herb, you got that?
I'm being avoided.
Okay. So this is the part I'm going to use the word disingenuous, and I don't know if that's accurate. But this segment that she's now
It's absolutely accurate, Evan. Can you stop trying
No,
to...
no, I'm going to keep. That segment, basically, to summarize it, is people are going to lose their jobs if we go to the 112 budget. Why didn't you, or did you, or challenging this grassroots movement, why or how many conversations did you have with those workers who are going to lose their jobs? Right? Am I describing what she just said accurately?
Yes, but what?
Okay.
But what work?
No. What employees were going to lose their job?
That's what I was asking.
Because I don't know that. I'm going to just assume the grassroots leaders don't know that. And the reason I'm assuming that is because 2 days before this, Lydia Edwards says, and now I'm quoting, let's see. If the council rejected the proposal, this is another reporter saying it. I'll read the whole thing so I don't misquote. Council Lydia Edwards said that while the budget has come a long way, she is concerned about what she calls the administration's inability to explain the worst-case scenario. If the council rejected the proposal, she wants to know who would lose their jobs, how many jobs would be lost, and whether employees that were let go because of that move would eventually be rehired. And then she says, the budget doesn't answer for the cry of a lot of systematic changes people want, and it's frustrating. But right there, 2 days before this vote, or maybe it was even 1 day before this vote, Lydia Edwards is saying she's mad at Marty because Marty is not telling her who is going to lose their jobs. That's that level of uncertainty that they use as like a gun to someone's head. But
Right.
now Lydia, who the day before said that she doesn't even know, is now kind of challenging and accusing the grassroots movement of why didn't you ask the people who are going to lose their jobs?
What people are going to lose their jobs?
But that's the big thing.
Right.
And and she definitely knows that we don't know the cuts because Marty is hiding it. And this is what always happens. And this is why you can't blink. This is the frustrating part of it, is that Marty will always submit a budget and then say, if you don't pass this, people are going to lose their jobs.
Well, play chicken a little harder.
No, and that's basically it. Because then the city council doesn't pass it. We go to the 112th, the stopgap measure. Marty then has to write up another budget and resubmit it. And now it becomes a messaging game. And this is what politics is. Marty is going to say the far left liberals on the Boston City Council threw away the budget and got you all fired. And then we say, the city council members say, Marty submitted an incredibly racist, authoritarian budget which gave the police everything and starved our education systems.
Right, which is actually what happened.
And now it becomes a media narrative, and the city council had tens of thousands of people who would have echoed that fight. And you lost that now. You don't
Yes.
get that from a year of budget hearings throughout the course of it. You lost the entire last month of this movement, which helps you win the media narrative. So the gun that is to your head, that is also to Marty's head, and we direct it towards him. We continue to protest his house. That's how change works.
Which we're doing.
No, still, but now it's going to be a
Right.
year of
This was a chance, yeah.
And this was the chance of it. And that's the most frustrating part of it. It's just like you lost the moment. Maybe people are still pissed. Like, I'm glad I went to the protest immediately afterwards. And the person said, if we're going to march for 1,000 days, we'll march for 1,000 days. And I admire people who have that spirit. But, like, you lost the moment. That's the wind-up of the bat that we were leading towards to help you win that messaging war. That is the next step. It was a messaging war between us and Marty Walsh. And you blinked and you gave it up and they won. That is why I'm so pissed. Is there any more?
It's not going to be okay, Evan. No more from Lydia. Let's move on.
Okay.
Feel a little better?
No, I do. I think I just needed to say that. But,
Wow. I felt that. You guys, if you were here in this room, you would feel this like tension and release.
No, but that's how it works. And,
I know.
And it's theory of change. And maybe that's why Liz is also like kind of hurt. Because it didn't.
Liz hurts because that's my girl and not so much.
Yeah, let's just do Liz. Let's just get all the
Can you
negative
just do Liz? I don't even want to
Because
do
then
Liz.
the next two are pretty happy.
Let's see. Yeah, we gotta get to Julia.
So, Councilmember Liz Breeden, again, I'm not personalizing it.
Milk
You can
toast,
personalize it
milk
how you want. I'm not.
toast.
She, I thought, was gonna vote no on the budget. This is the one I called
I really
the
had
worst.
faith in that. Yeah.
Let's listen to what she has to say. I don't know.
Councillor Edwards and Councillor Bach in particular, that rather than throwing it all to the wind and taking a chance that we can execute change in this moment, that this budget lays the foundation for lasting change for our city going forward if we are prepared to do the hard work that it would take to make that change happen. I want to assure my colleagues of colour that I will work alongside you and support the policy roadmap that was laid out by our Madam President last week in her letter to the Mayor that I signed on to. There is so much work to be done, and I am prepared to put my shoulder to the wheel and partner with you to address the systemic racism in our city. It is real, it is impacting the lives of so many people here, and it needs to be resolved.
All right, well, for comedic effect, Lauren keeps trying to figure out what I'm like scratching.
Dude, he is writing in another alien language.
And I'm
over
just
there,
like, I just wrote, you won't be able to understand my notes.
which I also wasn't able to understand when I read it. I was like,
But okay.
okay, so that was a whole lot of saying nothing. Also, because there was no action on it. Like this laid groundwork for nothing. And disappointing. And now we have a pro cop rally in Brighton next week. Lovely.
It was definitely disappointing. I mean, obviously because we have what I'll call an interpersonal relationship with Liz, and if it wasn't for COVID and some other stuff, maybe I would have done a lot more public outreach to her directly and some of the people that she works with to like talk leading up to this, just focusing on the streets, because that to me is where change will always come first. But she follows on the same track that Lydia and Bach did, which is about like your theory of change. And she said, like, rather than taking the risk, like, rather than throwing stuff to the wind.
What isn't even is the risk, though?
Because the not passing the budget, it carries a risk. And then again, it's just the mayor has a gun to his head, the city council has a gun to their head, and the entire thing is just who blinks?
Just
and
pass
where
a
does the
budget
pressure?
the next week. It's not like the U.S. Congress. They can always.
Even them, they can do it when they need to if there's enough pressure.
Right,
But
like there's money exists.
It's
like,
rather than doing the unknown. I am smart enough that I will spend the next year creating the perfect budget.
Oh, because now we trust you for that.
and then the mayor will have to say yeah, and like it's just not how it works.
Nope.
And again, missed the moment. It hurt on an interpersonal level. And yeah,
it hurt on it. Well, it didn't. So the thing is, I can also say, like, not to be like sitting here like bringing up old stuff, but I was right with who I supported in the primary at first. I just want to say that, like I know there are people who ran. I live in Alston Brighton, so this is why it affects me. I want to be proud of my city councilor. And generally with Liz, I've listened to a lot of hearings and I've been like, okay, she generally does vote in ways that I appreciate, I approve of. But, we elected somebody that was supposed to be really progressive and would stand on the side of people, and then just caved. Like what kind of, I don't know. There was a bunch of caving. And is it because Alston Brighton's too quiet for the Black Lives Matter stuff? Is because, our district's very quiet compared to Dorchester or whatever? I don't know. Then again, the loud districts had city councilors that caved too. So.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with what someone's theory of change is, and to what how do you view the office? Actually, is it too hard to go back to Lydia? Because I didn't actually let her to do her ending.
No, I don't want to.
No. Yeah, it's more.
All right.
Huh? How long is the whole
This
clip?
moment, as many of my colleagues have said, this is something special about today and this time and this budget. This is not the
Give her
time
like
to
the
shy
ending 30
away.
seconds of the clip.
This is the time to
Because she
have
says
layoffs.
something that is relevant
How
to
many
what
of
I'm
them
doing.
were part of this decision that
Yeah,
they were
that's
going to be
correct.
the ones that could be sacrificed? I'm curious, with the grassroots movement, how many workers were asked, what are your opinions?
What?
On being a voice and not an echo. I stand in my own 2 feet. I don't need the hashtags. I don't need the talking points. I don't need those things because I'm very clear and I'm direct with where I stand and for whom. I have been consistent, and I will hold my record up to any one of my colleagues about pushing for structural change from day one and getting it done. I challenge anyone to question my character, and I'll be damned if anyone questions my blackness or my solidarity for people of color in any way, shape, or form, based on any vote I take as a city councilor. You do not, you need to stand down. I have gotten ridiculous text messages, horrific things said about me, and let me tell you something. Still I rise.
Okay, that was the ending. I felt like she deserved to say the ending part. I don't think anyone listens to me on my view of person of color in office and challenges people use that identity and are you living up to that identity. I don't think anyone looks to me for my guidance on that. So I just felt that she had the right to say that. The part that I disagreed with what she said, and the first word was cut out, but it leads to theory of change thing, is I'm a voice, not an echo. I stand on my own 2 feet. And I want people to remember that statement and contrasting that now. Let's go with Michelle Wu.
Yeah, there we go.
Again, does change come from a few smart people in office? Is your voice, your 2 feet? Or like where does power and change and the role of the office in the office? I think Michelle and Julia. I'm like ending with Julia because she does an incredible job.
We all know we love Julia. Everybody.
I mean, she was like she worked for like MTV when she was like 15
We
years
all
old.
love Julia.
Like Julia
yeah.
has incredible messaging and
Yeah, but Julia's been voting the right way too,
She has
and really bringing up great questions.
But for right
and
now,
sitting
we're
here.
talking about future mayor of Boston, Michelle
Well, yeah,
Wu.
yeah.
So let's listen to what the future mayor has to say.
This council has taken legislative steps and has voted time and again on non-binding resolutions that express our support for equity and justice. Yet passing this budget is a message to those calling for equity, justice, relief in our streets, those who have reached out to us by the tens of thousands, and especially those who aren't connected enough to reach out to their city councilors. It's a message that they should be satisfied with incremental change, and yes, crumbs. I refuse to be complicit in the inertia of delaying structural change as too expensive, too scary, not quite the right timing. I say when we deny ourselves the chance to act, we pass on another share of that burden to the next generation, to all of our kids. So most of all, we must be honest with our constituents and ourselves. We will not solve all the city's challenges by June 30th. We won't end systemic racism this next fiscal year, but no one is asking us to. What we owe our constituents and our communities is to deliver the measure of justice, equity, and relief that meets this moment. Our role in the process as a city council is to fight for progress and hold the administration accountable to the standards that our residents deserve. When the administration chooses to run out the clock with impending fear of layoffs and cuts, our role first is to tell the truth. Just because some might think it unlikely or hard to come to a better agreement through moving to a provisional budget temporarily doesn't mean it's acceptable for us to hide that option under a veil of fear-mongering, with administration officials suggesting falsely to city workers that they will be laid off immediately starting July 1st. I, for one, am expecting no shortcut, but the roadmap that our residents deserve. And to be clear, that residents and organizers in our communities have been offering up for decades and generations.
Okay. So the reason I cut those segments of hers is she's the only person, to my knowledge, after watching it for 4.5, that mentioned streets of like of where is this call coming from?
Right.
And she actually said like I am responding to tens of thousands of people
Yes.
marching in front of City Hall day after day, week after week.
And she was out there in West Roxbury last week too. And yeah, and the thing is exactly what she said. Like now, like there was a moment where there's some, I wouldn't even call the change that big structural change, this saying no to a budget.
No.
That's not even actually a big change. It's just like then you have a chance to do that.
Well, what makes it a change is that of how unprecedented it is. Because and Julia's
Well,
about
that's
to,
what we elected them for.
and Julia's about to talk about this, which is perfect timing. I love when callers call in between the clips.
Hello? Take it. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, who's this?
This is Lee. How's it going?
Lee, how are you
Lee,
doing?
how's it going, man?
Good, good. Oh, I must be I think I'm behind your live show. Are you still talking about Michelle Wu?
We just ended with Michelle, probably maybe one or two lasting comments. But what are you thinking? What are you
Oh, the
feeling,
show's
man?
over?
Yes, we would love to. What do you got to say, Lee? How's it going?
Oh, okay, good. Oh, no. So, couple things. There was, so with, y'all saw the Monday, the whole Monday budget discussion, like 7 hours long, that hearing that occurred.
Hmm.
So during that's when Lydia, Michelle Wu, they were both asking, like, what exactly are these cuts that folks are talking about? And so the next day, the mayor's office, the administration reached out and sent us this spreadsheet that sort of detailed exactly where those cuts would be coming from department-wise, as well as the jobs that won't be paid for or departments that won't be created, such as like the I think it was like the Office of Human Rights or something like that. Like these offices that aren't in the 2020 budget that won't be created if the budget doesn't pass. And so this is where the justification for Edwards' vote and Bach and eventually Liz came from. Liz, being completely transparent, Liz's vote was dependent on Bach and Edwards. And because Edwards went yes, that's why Liz went yes.
I just
Because,
no, I was gonna say that also came across. If you would listen to Liz's full clip, it was very clear that if the previous two went the other way, she was going to also. But keep going.
yeah. And so when she's like, those are Lydia from the beginning has always been like pretty much her mentor at City Hall. And so one of the earliest discussions, like, well, not even earliest discussion, like Monday or so or Tuesday, that she was having when she was like on the fence because Liz was a no for 2 weeks. She
Right.
was a no for 2 weeks.
Right.
And she didn't become a yes until Tuesday, the day before.
And that's when the spreadsheet
And-
went out.
Yeah. We're not on camera, right?
I am on camera. Lauren
You're
is
not
on camera.
We're on camera.
We can only hear
Oh,
your
who's on
voice.
camera?
We don't know who you are. We can do like an FBI voice changer if you want.
Sure. No. So anyway, it was mostly the influence. Well, what happened also was there were a ton of unions, department heads, the mayor, and all kinds of folks who reached out to Liz to get her to vote yes, which was a thing that was happening around. And the reasoning behind that was the recession and COVID and the uncertainty of what the new budget would potentially look like. Like, they were marking and we could lose every single game, including the cut in the police department and in general, like all these new investments that were being made for like additional $9 million in affordable housing, all these different huge investments that were being made in this new budget, we would lose because the uncertainty of what would happen after the 112 budget. There was also the issue of the state money. The state money, such as like the Promise Act, we're already having issues trying to get the Promise Act money for BPS. And so there were issues because the state's going to be in a deficit for a little bit, to say the least. And in our budget itself, probably is going to be impacted for the next couple of years. Like, I don't even think we'll get up to the level that we are, like the one we are now, until probably the 2023 budget. Because it's going to take a while to recover from COVID. And so that was her rationale. Now, I disagreed. I wanted to know in April, to be honest. I and Wayne, well, I'm not going to say this. Our policy director, you can look him up. We advocated with Liz to the very moment she went up to speak. We asked her, we kept begging, like, hey, we want, we think it's best if you go with no. And the reason being is because we knew that there was the ramifications of her not voting for it at this point were people were going to look at her as being a person who wasn't completely down with the idea of reinvesting for the police, which is something that she did endorse, that she wants to do. But she saw a yes vote as something practical because she didn't want people to lose their jobs, essentially. And so, like I said, I disagreed with her because I felt like the mayor could have came out with a budget the next day. We could have had a negotiation, and folks who, it's like, essentially the mayor could always use that same excuse, which you brought up earlier, Evan. The mayor could always use the same excuse that if we don't have a budget passed, people will lose their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the use of having the city council vote if that's the case?
Exactly.
Or maybe we should hold the vote higher earlier in the month, like the beginning of June, so that if there is a case where the council does not like the budget or votes down the budget, you have more weeks to play with instead of just 1 week.
Right.
And so, yeah.
So you I have 3 comments about what you just said. You just went with my second one, which is basically there will always be a level of uncertainty. And that pressure will always be used towards the city council. That's why like you wait until like the mayor gave them the last iteration. Like the whole spreadsheet thing.
Yeah, I'm curious.
No, to me is funny because it's just like, all right, well, if I'm Marty and I now need to convince the Boston City Council to pass my budget, I'm going to make sure that this spreadsheet is scary as fuck.
Right, exactly. Like, I'm just going to...
like, I'm going to be like, tens of thousands will die each day. Like, I'm going to make that as worse sounding as possible. But as we were mentioning earlier, like, this is all going to be about, all right, and who's going to put the blame for those consequences.
Right.
And then it becomes a media battle. Did the mayor submit a bad budget, or is the city council being unreasonable? And I just still feel that, and there's another point specifically about Liz's vote, but I just feel like with this level of public support, the council could have won that media battle, and they decided instead to cave under the pressure that could exist, rather than just saying, no, we're going to go with the pressure, let's see who blinks first.
I agree.
I have one thought. I have a question about Liz's vote, but Lauren, did you have something?
Oh, no, I have a question too, but it's probably the same question, so go.
Well, so, I mean, like obviously, like, I mean, I don't know if you could literally have been texting her during this, but after Lydia went to pass the budget, and it was funny, like, were you watching this too? And at first, Lydia's Zoom wasn't working, so, like, she was supposed to talk, and then, oh, we can't get her, somebody else go. Oh, we can't, and, like, that added to the tension of this moment.
I'm kind of glad I was at, like, 3 protests that day. Jeez.
But after Kenzie and Lydia both said pass the budget, I don't think there was anyone from Liz on that was, like, on the fence. And what I mean by that is, why didn't Liz at that moment still vote not to pass the budget, knowing that there was already enough votes in the bag that the budget would pass?
Right.
So that she could have protected her left flank, communicated to the people who've been reaching out to her about defunding, show her seriousness to this, and not have to face any of the negative consequences of what could have happened. Is it, without me speculating, any idea on that one?
I actually don't, to be honest, I don't know. Like, so when it came to, like, her speech, her initial, her final vote and everything, the staff didn't participate in that. She did that on her own. And what we hoped from her was to have more, open dialogue to really craft a speech that we felt was more encompassing of what could happen. Like our policy director was hoping to make a speech, like make 2 speeches depending on if she voted yes or no. And we, I even, once the votes came in, we both reached out to her and we were like, hey, it's already a yes vote. Just go with no. It's
right,
okay.
right.
No, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Brighton will be so
like
happy.
You already
yeah,
had it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
was there so much? Because of course the unions are going to pressure to pass the budget and all that. Like, do you think she was and again, if you're not comfortable speculating, I fully understand that. Do you think it was just like she responded to that pressure more than the pressure of people who wanted her to defund?
Or she's squatting
Well-
with like Lydia and Kenzie. You know, like they want to like be on the same page. Maybe I don't know. That's my speculation.
Yeah, it's also like when, it's a mix of both. Like, I think the practicality of for sure money over maybe money in her mind was explained to her by others is why she voted that way and kept her vote that way. She wanted to support that theory. We should look at what we have now and the increases that the mayor proposed in certain things now. And then she still wanted to address like, hey, we're still going to handle these things that folks brought up. We just can't do it with this budget itself.
Yeah.
Like just the budget vote itself.
Mhm. Yeah, so
That's why I said it was a very milquetoast.
so we're gonna have another year of hearings, and maybe we'll get 20 million from the overtime budget, which is like
Okay, so
3% of the total budget. Someone who has a calculator, tell me what that thing is. Like we're gonna wait a year to get like a 3 to 4% reduction of a police budget, which
Yeah.
probably when you match it with inflation and stuff is
Incremental
gonna like
change
still be
now.
dollar for dollar the same. So I don't know. I still really feel that they missed the political moment completely.
They done goofed.
And Liz ended with these statements, and Lydia echoed them a lot. Like, and now we're gonna do the work. Can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, exactly. What's
because
next? What
because
are they
I
gonna-
feel like I've been doing the work for a while. I haven't did like. So are we just gonna show up to hearings now and just do like 10 hours of public
Well,
testimony?
they did ban facial recognition that day, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's great.
That's something we've been working on for like 20 years, Evan. Okay,
Well-
that was actually
well,
pretty
for-
cool.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah,
Before unless Lee, do you want to pivot to that? Whatever last thing I just said that I already forgot.
Oh, sorry.
Now you distracted
No,
me. 'Cause I have stuff on that too.
I think folks, when you're going to these hearings and you're doing these ordinances every day, like hearings for ordinances or just hearing orders in general, I think you start to get into your mind that you're doing a lot of work.
Mm.
And a lot of hearings are just discussions
Yeah.
that don't really amount to anything.
It's I don't want to discourage people from participating, but it's a busy box.
Yeah.
Because like what matters is the payment at the end of the day. You can have all the public testimony you want.
No, and so I think with some of the ordinances that were coming out, I think that's the direction that she's pointing in, that she's emphasizing, especially like creating a separate department that handles non-violent calls that Edwards, Wu, and Mejia are proposing. Also, of course, the ban on the facial recognition technology. Folks really were happy about that.
Yeah.
And then there's like a few other big ordinances that have come out in the last couple of weeks that folks are really pushing behind. Like one of the areas that Liz actually even pushed behind is the raising the age of juvenile justice jurisdiction, which is a state level issue, but having that discussion on the city level. And there was also a resolution at the State House that she sponsored a resolution to go up to the State House, and the entire council voted for. Was something that Rep. Liz Miranda is working on, which actually has the state say, hey, we're going to get rid of all those weapons like, tear gas, rubber bullets, and all that, and ban it at the state level so Boston couldn't use it. So it was like
Nice.
stuff like that. That's what she's hoping, like, this is the kind of work that we're hoping to communicate to folks. And I think the speech could have emphasized that kind of work a little bit better, but I still thought a no vote was the best idea politically.
I don't think I
Those
need
things are nice, but I still feel like.
Well, it's also like big things coming, y'all. Like just wait what we're gonna do.
Yeah, right. Waiting to see. We just,
Yeah.
wait a little longer.
But am I right on the facial recognition software that one, it has to get approved by Marty, like he can veto it. Two, it's just prevents civil employees, the Boston Police Department, from using it. Department of Homeland Security can still do whatever they want in Boston. ICE can still do whatever they want in Boston. Defense can still do whatever they
Yeah,
want.
that
in Boston.
that's yes.
No, okay.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Okay, I just.
But with
am
that,
I
I mean,
right?
I think that'll prevent a lot of data from going to Brick.
Yeah, probably. Again, it's a good thing. I'm not
Yeah.
like right now after.
We could have like Kate on to talk about that.
Yeah.
I could
Right.
get really into that. I would love that.
In an hour and a half of bashing them, I don't want to then compliment them on something.
Okay, well, yeah.
You are
I know.
awarded no
Listen,
points.
this is a fight that's been going on for like 10
yeah.
years.
No,
though.
I also remember Wu said that too. Like this stuff isn't new.
No.
Like just the fact that I now tweet about it nonstop the last month doesn't mean there weren't people before me who's been doing this for like decades.
That was like sprinkles, like on like a
yeah.
shitty pile of spaghetti, just like a little bit of extra happy sprinkles on top that day. I was like, oh, at least they banned facial recognition software while we're all out there at the protest wearing masks anyway.
Yeah. Well, we still have Julia's clip. Did you have any lasting comments, Lee?
That was player 3.
He's good. He's asleep.
Nice.
But no, that was pretty much it. Like, I just wanted to share that perspective, get that information out there, and just say definitely hold everybody accountable. I think a lot of folks got to recover from this. On the folks who voted yes, who lean more towards the progressive end, they definitely have to recover from this to prove all this shit that they were saying that we need to get things done. Mm-hmm. And so I need folks to hold their feet to the fire as much as you can. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hold my council to the fire. And so, I'm hoping by the end of the year we can see some actual results occur.
You think that's possible with this? Wait, I mean, we'll see. People will judge Momentum maybe more still like next week, I feel like. But I feel like out of sales.
No, yeah. And like
it's just...
I feel like because like the biggest, Julia's about to say this, the biggest power they have is just a yes or no on the budget. And so if you're not going to use that, like how much effort am I going to put into a council member for like have another hearing or push more for this if at the end of the day you're going to blink and not use really the only weapon you have? Like, I gotta do that now for another year. Like, when you, like, tens of thousands of people marching in the streets, that wasn't enough to tell you, like, what to do.
They're waiting for everybody to get their jobs back so they don't have to deal with it
No,
anymore.
Lee is 100% correct. The next 3 to 5 years of city and state budgets is going to look like complete shit show. And that's why we needed to win arguments of all the money has to be taken from the police. And if you don't win that argument right now, delaying it a year is only going to make things harder, and people are going to become more desperate, more austere, less willing to take risks. So I don't know.
It's like, no, okay.
Now you're depressed me, Lee. What happened? I was almost happy. I'm kidding. Thank you for calling in, Lee.
Lee, it's good to hear from you.
Yeah, take care. Tell your wife and baby we said hello.
Okay, bye.
Lee got me depressed.
Oh, you were so happy for a minute.
No, once I got it out originally.
You could feel the pressure in the air changing in this room.
Because Lee reminded us of, like, there's no money coming in. And, like, one of the best arguments they did have for passing it was they're going to give us different estimates and it's going to look more dire. So, like, this is the largest kitty, so we should just take what we have now, which to me is still, like, you have to make big moves right now. Like, you can't be afraid. And if the kitty gets smaller, that means we're cutting more out of the police department's budget.
Perfect.
Like, and if you don't do that now with this amount of public support, telling people, just wait, y'all, big things coming.
Don't give them a chance to do some sort of operation that makes their exist like there's gonna be some kind of oh man, I'm gonna get into some Alex Jones territory. Marathon bombing. Bam. Now everybody loves the police again. And then now you can't cut their budget because some bullshit's gonna happen in Boston, and then now we're all gonna look at them good again. Everyone's gonna forget that Black Lives Matter like they always did.
You completely use a year's worth of negotiation if you've already proven that you're gonna blink and fold your cards at the first sign of pressure.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a new city council.
Like, you could get so much more done throughout the year if Marty is entering into an election year and knows that you're willing to just not have a city budget.
Right.
Like that is how pressure is done. You with the public support. You instead telling the mayor's office, no, we're gonna cave. Never mind. Then like, why am I gonna sit in a negotiating table and do nothing but laugh at you if I know you're not gonna match me if to show in if I go all in?
And there's the left for you, folks.
It's very frustrating. Lee's apologizing. No, you're all right, Lee. I'll get happy again once
Yeah.
we get to start drinking.
Yeah, we haven't been drinking. This is like the first show I'm sober on.
Yeah.
I'm drinking Pepsi, and I'm still yelling like I've.
So I
been
rode my
drinking beer.
motorcycle, so I'm wearing my sleeveless shirts. Or I think it was Weber who made a comment in the chat. All right,
Rod
but
Weber
let's
likes your
end with
arms.
Julia. I won't interrupt her. She does a good 2 minutes.
Look at you taking over my show.
This is
I
a special
found
edition show.
At barbershops, at nail salons, by crashing barbecues and baby showers. It is the people and their voices that I'm carrying into this space. It is the people who put me in this seat that I am here to represent. And those people are my people. And those people are tired of dodging bullets. And those people are tired of waiting for change. I am no longer interested in having drip drop incremental changes that expect us to continue to hope and pray and wait some more about finally having the type of budget that really reflects the needs that our people find themselves into. I am very disappointed about the process of which the politics of politics have gone down. And as a first-term counselor, have learned a lot about how negotiations happen and how every day we negotiate against ourselves. I am very disappointed to hear that if I don't vote in a particular way, that my constituents and the city services that they are looking for will be put on hold based on how I vote. I'm very disappointed to hear that if I vote against the mayor's budget, will be sending a signal that I'm against the mayor. This is not the mayor's budget. This is the people's budget. Make that clear. These are our tax dollars that we're talking about right now. And the thousands of emails that I've gotten from people speak to what we're here to do, which is to stand firm in our convictions and fight for those who put us in office. And while I understand this notion that we were being irresponsible about not approving a budget, I feel like if our role as a city council is to ensure that the budget is our biggest responsibility, then it is our responsibility to make sure that we vote on our values. And that is what I'm doing. If this is the one moment in time that I have to flex my little political power in this type of environment that I happen to find myself in, if the budget is the only way for me to do that, then I'm going to stand firm in that conviction and vote in the way that I feel best represents the needs of this time.
Preach.
That's right.
I love her ending to that. If she says, like, if this is my one moment to flex this little political power, we all agree it's a mayor-centric system. The city council really doesn't have much power. So she's saying, if this is the only power I have to flex whatever muscle I have, I'm going to use it.
Right.
Perfect.
We have another caller. Let's take
I
it.
think I know who this is. Hello?
Hey, how's it going? It's Matt.
Matt, how are you? How are things?
Well, I'm doing a lot better now that I heard that clip from Julia.
Right?
Yeah, see, it's very uplifting. No, go, please.
No, I mean that is exactly what you've been preaching and what Lauren was just saying. That is the role of a counselor. If we are going to waste all that time knocking doors, donating money, trying to get someone into office, we need them to be amplifying what people are doing in the streets. And I completely agree with what you both have been saying about the need. Like, this is a critical moment. Like what Councilor Edwards has said is absolutely true. This is a critical moment. There's so much energy making the demands. And at the city level, at the state level, at the federal level, I just feel like I'm watching Democrats negotiate against themselves over and over again and say, well, we can't do, we have one button to push. We can't push that button. That would be irresponsible. Let's have a working group for the next year.
Yep. Let's start with the compromise.
And it's the reason I wanted to call in was it's just I feel so demoralized after this week of listening to
basically how I think the most demoralizing thing is when people who are progressive, and I totally believe that many of these yes votes, these people in their heart of hearts are progressives, want to pass all these policies and want to do what's right. But it is actually so much more damaging when they get up to that scary moment where we need them to do something that is maybe risky in a negotiation or maybe is a little bit scary, and back down and tell us that actually you got to show up to a bunch of hearings, because what that does is just pour cold water on everything.
Yeah.
And you're going to have, you're not going to have nearly as Somerville had 400 people give public comment the other night on defunding the police. If the council kicks that down and doesn't do anything with it, you're not going to get 400 people every week.
When
And I
will
think
you
a lot
hear
of
that decision? I'm just curious. In
I think
Somerville.
they're voting next week.
Okay. We'll see what happens after Saturday. That might affect.
Yeah.
I feel like there's still an opportunity to show something. I feel like there's still an opportunity, at least pre-moralizing.
Well, maybe in Somerville, but like.
No, not in Boston. No.
No,
Boston's
yeah,
great,
like agreeing with everything you just said. Like that energy's gone. Like,
Yep. No, it's not. The energy is there. The people's energy is there.
It needs to culminate in something, and if you just said it's not going to culminate in like the one, as you just said, like the one button we wanted you to press, then I don't know.
Can't somebody submit something? I mean, I don't even know how this works. Somebody's got to be able to submit something.
For Boston, that's done. Cambridge got how many million got reallocated?
2.5. They reallocated 2.5 million.
That's it? Okay.
Over to something. Yeah, it was level funding. I think Cambridge suffered from having to go first. Cambridge voted, I think, a couple weeks ago.
Yep. Yeah, I think there was a screening
also
match.
Tricky, but
What I heard.
I just wanted to come back to one other thing too that we talked about. You guys talked about earlier, which was all the folks that are. So it was very clear, right, that Marty put out the call to have all of the folks in his who depend on the budget, to have them all call in and say, you got to vote yes. And I mean, I talked to a friend who works for a nonprofit, which I will not disclose, who almost resigned the other day because they found out that their executive director was arguing for a yes vote of all the counselors. And it's like, you think that you've got these great liberal progressive nonprofits in the city of Boston or in this state, and they're going to back you up, and maybe the unions are dirty or something, although I love unions. Like they're all under the same pressure. And so like, that is really toxic to me. And I understand why they have to do it. Like they are dependent on the budget to have continued operations. And it's so obvious to me that we need to be building institutions and organizations where like we can all keep ourselves sane and not have to depend on a budget line item like this, because if it always push comes to shove is going to be like your great progressive nonprofits, your unions, everyone else is going to suddenly push for you not to do that one scary thing, then maybe we shouldn't bother with a city council or any elections for that matter.
No, I mean like
I'm like almost there.
No, that's absolutely like how I felt the last 2 days. Of just like what's the point? This is the most progressive city council in Boston's history, and all we're asking you to do right now is send the budget back and say, Marty, try again, and we're willing to have this pressure.
And
let's see who blinks.
Minneapolis voted today, I think, or yesterday, to abolish their police.
Awesome.
What's the difference? They burned a police station down.
No, yeah.
Maybe that's more effective than I'm not advocating to burn down a police station.
Hey, you said it, not me. So.
But that seems to be the variable that's different here. That would be unfortunate if that's the only escape valve that our system is leaving people, because we don't need to do that. We have a democracy for a reason.
I would love to see someone putting a call out there to do a study of what cities. I want to be careful of how we're framing it, but what cities experienced the most public unrest? I'll call it that. The most public unrest, and what did that result to in terms of reduction of police budgets? And how close are those two things correlated? Because I have to imagine, agreeing with what you just said, if Minneapolis, which was one of the major sites of a public uprising, had the biggest impact, Boston we absolutely had some police escalation that resulted in pepper spray, tear gas.
Yeah, that happens like every year.
Police
It's gonna happen
police violence
tomorrow.
against people. Some broken windows. A couple shops got raided, and that resulted in nothing really changing.
I'm not saying what would happen if people burned down a police station, but I'm saying what would happen.
I don't know. Any rays of hope, Matt, that you can leave us with? Oh, wait. Did you think going in they were going to pass it or decline it?
Oh, I definitely thought they were going to pass it going into it.
Yeah, me too.
So this is why I just stay on the streets. I don't want to deal.
Yeah, because I mean, and I get that there's a real challenge there. Like, I get that you see that spreadsheet and you're really scared, but I still think, when the boss does that to workers in private sector, what do? Well, like, sometimes a worker will get fired temporarily, and then you say, Linda or Charles or Bob is this great worker. We're going to bring him out to the picket line. We're going to bring her out and talk about how Mayor Marty Walsh just fired Linda.
That's right.
This is Linda's story. Linda is great. And why did he fire her? Because some counselors told him to cut the police budget, and he said no.
Yeah.
And like, you make that the story, like, you're absolutely right. You would be winning every night on the news that it
especially
was
when we have thousands, tens of thousands of people who are willing to be that. Like, never have have I lived through a moment of this amount of political awareness around a single issue demanding something concretely measurable. Like, they had the Twitter army, they had the people that will call into the NPR stations, like, to win that media message. Marty is going into an election year, probably against Michelle for next year. Like, you could, like, that was the easiest that we're gonna have.
That might be one silver lining.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, Michelle came out looking pretty good.
We'll see. She seems out of touch with the left progressive council that voted to pass the budget. So.
That's the one person who I thought higher of after all that, actually.
Michelle? No, I thought she did a good job.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we always loved Julia, so that's like kind of was. I don't know. I don't know what the next step is for Boston. Besides just go out tomorrow and protest some more. That's my plan.
I'll be out there. That's gonna be.
Yeah.
That's where we should be. Everyone should be out. Where is it? The Gould Memorial tomorrow.
I don't even know what memorial that is, but it's somewhere near the Common. I'm about to plug it in a minute.
Yeah.
If Evan ever gets through the city council horror show.
It's funny because I even had more stuff.
I told him to cut it. I'm like, no, we can't do this.
I was
going to
talk about charter reform because Lydia Edwards pointed to that. I'm not gonna.
Evan, we can't. This is my show.
I'm not going to.
I'm not here to be made sport of.
I was gonna talk about charter reform and like how long that process.
You want
takes.
a show?
No.
You can have your own show.
No.
I don't
my
even
show is I play video games. People can, here's my plug. With Sophia News, you get to watch my face play video games, and I won't talk to the camera.
We'll plug it.
Matt, do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, what are you plugging?
I'm not plugging anything right now.
All right.
I'll let you go and finish more of your clips.
But we'll see you on the streets tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
All right. Take care, Matt. Thanks for
Take
calling.
care. Keep doing what you're doing. This is a great show.
Thanks.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Yeah, we love it. Getting a lot of calls tonight. I feel good. Is everyone just doing it to make us do our show again, or do they actually?
I think a lot of people were also angry and upset, and we don't have a left media outlet to to vent besides tweeting, but
yeah, and that's what we're
doing it live.
So.
No, that was
good.
that was it.
I'm glad.
I don't have
like,
it in me to discuss charter reform.
We're not discussing. This is like, okay, unless you make it really, really sexy.
I can't.
Then yeah, don't.
No, I mean I can. I need more time and energy to do it.
Okay, maybe next week.
Yeah, we'll
see.
If
we do a show next week.
Yeah, we'll see. This was the special edition episode.
I actually have like a show planned for next week, so I think we might do a show next week.
All right. Anything to plug? You want to talk more about protests?
Yes.
I'm now passing the baton. I'm done with my rant.
All right, I let Evan do his thing for like an entire night. Because
I had a lot to say.
He had to.
I
know. I feel like I know.
I got trashed Wednesday night. I then went biking, just screaming, sweating. Thursday during my lunch break, in case my employees are watching, still yelling about the council, and I was just like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I need to vent, and I can't handle that.
I know you came out and you were like, I'm pretty sure you might be on the front page of the Boston Globe this weekend, flipping off the city hall.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Either you or me, I don't know. He did get up in my face, but All right, so we have a few. So as many of you know, I've been out there every single day. Always, if you think you know a protest in Boston that I don't know about, message me. Find me on Facebook because I want to be out there every day until we. I don't have a job. I don't have a life. This is my favorite thing. I want to be there. The one silver lining of all this shit that's been happening for the past months is that now people are coming together on the street. I'm hearing from people, making me laugh. It's making me cry. It's making me angry, and it's making me hopeful because I'm seeing the young out there every day. And I'm seeing. Something is changing, no matter what policy is changed or not yet. Something's changing. So anyway, two things that you all know I hate. One of them is Nazis, and one of them is also Nazis.
I was going to make a food joke, but I'm just like, wait, is that sexist? And like my filter blocked it.
What? Wait, what? Okay. I don't even know what you're talking about.
And they'd be like, I hate two things. I hate Nazis and spaghetti. Everyone knows this about me.
No, I like spaghetti. I hate Nazis. I hate the alt-right. I hate everybody that's a Proud Boy, and I'm okay. I'm not, like, I know, like, oh, we're not supposed to hate. No, I actually really do hate them. I think they suck.
Hating's okay. It's a very.
I have a lot of. I actually am driven by the hate in my heart. I hear all these amazing preachers talk about love as like a good thing and everything. No, I am driven by the power of hate. I really hate these people, and they're coming to Boston tomorrow. They are coming to the Common at 1 p.m. and we're gonna need all hands on deck for this. If you check, Herb, can you show the flyer? So we've got two flyers for two different events that I'm very, very well, you will attend with us.
Oh yeah, as I said,
like,
there's a delay.
I'll get ahead myself. All right, so this is organization Boston Solidarity Against Hate. Who knows who's in it? Maybe we're in it, I guess. Tomorrow, All Out Against White Supremacy, 12:30 p.m. The Robert Gould Shaw and the 54th Regiment Memorial, Boston Common. I actually have no idea where that is, but I know the Boston Common.
Follow the crowd.
Yep, just get there early so that we beat them to it. Follow the crowd. That doesn't look like a bunch of white boys. There will be a multi-generational, multi-ethnic of people, most likely dressed in all black. Those are the friendlies. Join us. Great. We'll have snacks. And then also, we're just gonna have to be louder than them. And I'm gonna need people with, if they can, have their phones charged, have cameras ready, and make sure that we all look out for each other tomorrow, because it is gonna get rainy. The cops do get a little aggro, but don't be scared. Got you. Next one is Alston Brighton, my hometown, is having a Blue Lives Matter rally. Yay! This is recently discovered. I think yesterday people saw a post where they are going to the Brighton Police Department and having a Blue Lives Matter rally. As we know, after West Roxbury, these things can get a little bit hairy. So this is Tuesday, June 30th. We're going to meet at 4:30 p.m. at Cunningham Park. Then we're going to head over to the Alston Brighton Police Department. This is very close by, so it's not a long walk. I didn't even know Cunningham Park was a place. I don't know the address of it. Just look it up. Just message me about that too. Bring signs. It's going to be a peaceful protest. Wear a mask, social distancing, all of that. We're flyering the town, and we would love to have you with us there to stand out against police brutality and against these Lives Matter bootleggers. Come in, spit on our faces, say super offensive stuff, drive through our communities with their cars, like driving through crowds of people, which has been happening lately. So we're going to need all hands on deck for both of these counter protests. And that's what's on the agenda for next week. There's also Black Lives Matter protest every day as well. Solidarity with incarcerated people, rallies, reopen the cases of the police in Boston, which is also important, among other, different groups organizing stuff. So if you can make it out to those as well, definitely do. But if you really just hate Nazis as much as I do, then these are the two you want to make. And if you have any questions, message me about them as well. And hopefully we can keep the cops under control too. Hope to see you there.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
What time is it?
12:30. Tomorrow, 12:30.
Oh, yeah. I make 12:30.
Brighton is 4:30. You should be there too. On Tuesday. Come on.
For the listeners, I'll say definitely.
Evan hates me. Won't even come to Brighton.
You know how far also Brighton is from Dorchester?
I go to Dorchester every day because I got to hang out with Herb. Because
Yeah,
Herb's my fearless producer.
Because Herb's cool.
Well, that was a weird implication. All right.
What? Is it her school?
I'm about to throw things at Evan again. All right, so I'm done with the
All right,
show.
I was
This
gonna
is Renters Radio. I do want to do a show next week. I have been talking to it's gonna be a whole lot I start to get into it, but about those 8 laid off workers from Corner United. I've been speaking to them at different rallies, and Joe has actually responded. There's a bunch of other things. I'll be live streaming every day anyway.
And where will you be live streaming at?
The street.
No, this is when you
They know who I am. Just look at my Facebook. I'm always there. Renters Radio is multi-stream on all platforms. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch.
If you give us more money and attention.
Yeah, donate to our Patreon so we can actually have beer during the show again. Also, find us on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. And next week, we'll let you know when it happens because I have no idea when it's going to happen.
See you in 3.5 months.
Yeah, right.
All right, later.
I...